Congress gets down to work this week debating the new nuclear agreement with Iran. This has become a very controversial deal, obviously, and the complaints really fall into two broad categories. The first is that while the agreement may do what it sets out to do, which is to stop the Iranians from reaching nuclear weapons status in the next decade, it doesn't really permanently stop the nuclear advances that the Iranians are going to make over time. And secondly, it doesn't do anything to stop Iranian misbehavior in the region, in that by lifting economic sanctions, it's going to provide billions of dollars that the Iranians can use to expand that kind of misbehavior. To figure out what to make of all this, in my Capital Journal column this week, I talked to Nicholas Burns, who was the Undersecretary of State in the George W. Bush administration and the guy who was the original point man in negotiations with the Iranians when the Bush administration first reached out, along with our European allies, to try to get this diplomatic process started. I asked him what he thinks. His answer was pretty simple. Accept this new deal is probably the best agreement that can be struck right now to slow down and stop the Iranian nuclear program for the next 10 years. It's hard to imagine that you could do better than this deal, in his estimation. But secondly, don't accept that the deal is somehow going to moderate Iranian behavior. In fact, be prepared for the opposite to happen. Come up with a containment strategy to stop the Iranians from expanding their influence in the region, even while you accept the nuclear deal. And this containment strategy really have four elements. The first, the U.S. should assert that it continues to have strategic interests in the Persian Gulf region that it's going to protect. Secondly, work with the Persian Gulf allies, particularly Saudi Arabia, to improve their defenses, not just by sending arms, but by knitting their defense establishments together with the U.S. to offset the Iranian strength that might be developing in the next 10 years. Third, repair relations with Israel. That relationship has gotten too frayed, Ambassador Burns says, needs to be fixed now as a counterweight to the Iranian influence in the region. And fourth, and maybe most importantly, simply assert that the U.S. is going to be a force in the Middle East, that it's not retreating from the region, but is going to stick with its allies in the region. As Ambassador Burns said to me, this is not a case in which countries are saying, Yankee, go home. This is a case in which our friends are saying, Yankee, come back.